Second problem that we have is where our joints are too deep or too shallow. For instance, this is a joint that is far too deep. You can see how far the sides go in. In order to make an adjustment for this, you're going to have to move your finger template. You must bring the template forward in order to make a socket that is not quite so deep. And the opposite of that is a joint that is too shallow, where the pins fit in, but they won't go in far enough. And in this case, you must move your finger template back in order to make a deeper socket. And the third and final problem that we have is a joint where you end up with a gap at one end or the other of your dovetail. And this is caused by your front board or your pin board not being brought up flush to the underside of your finger template. The trial cut that we made with our Omnijig has two problems. First of all, the sockets are too shallow and the pins project beyond the edge of the board, and the joint is too loose. So we must move the finger template back from the front edge of the Omnijig in order to take care of the shallow cut, and we must also increase the depth of our cut with our router bit in order to take care of the loose fit. Using my original setup board with my 19/32 inch line on there, I'm going to place it back into the fixture to fine-tune the jig. Now remember, I've got to move this finger template back slightly in order to make my sockets a little deeper. I can view my line and move my rod nuts accordingly until my template goes back a little past that line this time. We'll do the same thing on the other side of the template. Finally, I must make a deeper cut, and I want to make a trial cut again by bringing the router bit out from the base at least a 32nd of an inch. I'll do this by making an adjustment with this fine line that you see etched on the router and these marks that you see on this ring. 2 marks equals a 32nd of an inch. So I will screw the router motor in to the right until it moves over 2 marks, and that will actually lower my bit 1/32 of an inch. Having removed our setup boards, again we're going to put some more scrap into the fixture and make another trial cut. Again, make sure your top piece butts up against the left stop and firmly against your front board. Bring your front board up against it, left front stop, and flush with the finger template. Take your router, we'll do our shoulder cut, and then cut our pins and tails. Again, check to make sure that you have a nice uniform cut. Check for fit. This time we have a perfect joint. Let's take a few minutes to talk about drawer construction. If you look at a well-executed hand-cut dovetail, you'll notice a certain symmetry about the joints. The joints start with a half pin at the top and bottom. This is very easy to do when you're cutting hand dovetails. With a machine cut dovetail, it's not always easy to begin and end with a half pin. The machine cut dovetail repeats itself every 7/8 of an inch. And in order to get a perfect half pin at the beginning and end of your drawer, you must build your drawers in dimensions of 7/8 inch increments. If you want all of your drawers to begin and end with with a half pin. This means you must design your drawers ahead of time in 7/8 inch increments and design your carcass around your drawers. If, on the other hand, your drawers are in other than 7/8 inch increments, you may begin with a half pin, but may end with no pin whatsoever on this side. Structurally, there's nothing wrong with this joint, but for aesthetic reasons, you may want to begin your drawers with half pins on both ends. If you design your drawers so that they are in perfect 7/8 inch increments, you can cut all of your joints on either one side of your Omnijig or the other, and still end up with perfect half pins on both ends of your joint. This is very aesthetically pleasing. On the other hand, if you have material that is dimensioned in other than 7/8 inch increments, what you get is a half pin at the top here, no pin at the top here, no pin at the bottom here, and then a half pin at the bottom here. Structurally, this is very sound, but it's not as aesthetically pleasing. Additionally, looking at the top of the drawer, you can see we have what appears to be a butt joint on this corner and a dovetail joint on this corner. If you use both ends of the Omnijig to cut your joints, you will always end up with a symmetrical joint, even though you don't end up with a half pin top and bottom. All of your half pins will be at the top of your drawer. All of your no pins will be at the bottom of your drawer. One other thing we need to consider is where we cut the groove for our bottom piece in our drawers. The groove should be cut within the socket all the way around for our drawer bottoms. If you have cut all of your joints on one side of the Omnijig with non-standard dimensioned material, what happens is that you will end up with a through cut on two of your corners, which is not very pleasing. In order to eliminate these problems, it's my recommendation that no matter whether you're using material that is in perfect 7/8 inch dimensions or not in perfect dimensions, that you make cuts on both the left hand and the right hand side of the Omnijig. So next, I'd like to show you how to properly lay out a drawer for cutting on the Omnijig. Your drawers are constructed of 4 pieces of material, a front and back, generally 3/4 inch thickness, and 2 sides of 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch thickness. I always lay my drawers out in the same manner for marking. Front, back, left and right sides. Always check your material to make sure that your best face is down. What is exposed here will be the inside of the drawers. Next, you need to mark your drawers so you know how to put them in the Omnijig. Starting from your left side, I'll mark this piece side A, B, C, and D. I also want to make those marks close to what is going to be the bottom edge of my drawers. So I'll mark an A here, a B here, C, and D. Those will be the bottom edges of my drawers. Each piece of material is going to be cut on both the left and the right hand side of the Omnijig. Remember, we marked the bottom edge of each drawer, inside edge of the drawer. The bottom edge always goes against your stop, both on top and bottom. Place your pin piece in slightly above the top edge of your Omnijig, lock it in position. Take your front, again making sure that the bottom edge is going to be against the stop. Place it against the stop and flush up against the front piece. Lock it in position. Raise your front piece until it's flush with the underside of the finger template and against the left stop, and make your cut. Next, remove the top piece totally from the fixture. Remove your pin board from the front of the fixture. Rotate it in this manner. Reinsert it behind your clamp and move it to the right side of the Omnijig. Lock it in place. Next, take the back of your drawer, the piece that you did not cut, and place it under your top clamp, again with the bottom inside edge of the drawer butted against your right hand stop and flush up against your front piece of material. Readjust your front piece so that it is flush with the bottom edge of your template. Lock it in position. Remove the front piece. It has both cuts already made on it. Move your top piece over to the left-hand side of your fixture, again making sure that the bottom edge is against the stop. Take your second side piece, again making sure that your bottom edge is going to be against your left stop. Insert it under the front bar clamp, flush against the side stop, lock it in position. Reposition your top piece, again making sure that the bottom edge is against the top left stop and butted firmly against your front piece. Lock it in position. Reposition your front piece, ensuring that it is flush with the bottom edge of your finger template and against your stop, and lock it in position. We're now ready to make our third cut. We'll now make our final cut on the pieces on the right-hand side of the fixture. Remove the back piece, which has both cuts made on it. Insert the front piece, again making sure your mark is against the stop, underneath the top bar. Rotate this front piece and place it against the right front bar, making sure that the bottom edge is against the stop. Lock it down. Reposition your top piece flush against the right stop and your front piece of wood. Lock it in position. Reposition your front piece against your right stop and flush underneath your template. Lock it in position. And we are now ready to make our fourth and final cut. What we've just completed is what is referred to as a flush drawer, where the entire drawer will slide into the carcass of the set of drawers. A helpful tip, once you have your stop set for cutting perfect dovetails with your Omnijig, is to scribe a line on your Omnijig to position your stops back to the same position once again, should you have to move them for other Omnijig templates. Repositioning your stops is fast and accurate now without having to use your setup block. The scribe lines that we just put on the base of the Omnijig are only for the half-inch, half-blind dovetails. I do this because it's that style of dovetail that I cut most often on the Omnijig. When I make changes in the position of the stops for some of the other templates that we're going to use, I can reset for my half-inch, half-blind dovetails very quickly and accurately. Next, I want to show you how to make a rabbeted drawer front. This drawer front is distinguished by a 3/8" rabbet all the way around the drawer front. The backs and sides of your rabbeted drawer are cut exactly the same as your flush drawer. The only difference is your rabbeted drawer front. You dimension your material 3/4 of an inch wider and 3/4 of an inch longer than your drawer opening. Additionally, you must cut a 3/8" rabbet all the way around the drawer front. I have marked what will be the bottom of my drawer with a B, as I do in my normal flush drawer. Placing the material under the top clamp, we must reposition our left and right stops to make up for the 3/8" rabbet that we have cut around here. We want this front edge to be 3/16 of an inch underneath the template here. Additionally, since the portion of the board that we want to cut our sockets in is now 3/8 of an inch farther back from the front edge of the Omnijig, we need to move our template back 3/8 of an inch. A simpler way to make this adjustment is to use a rabbeting spacer block. This is no more than a 3/4 inch piece of material with a 3/8 inch shoulder cut on one end. To use a rabbeting spacer block, place it under the front bar clamp with the 3/8 inch shoulder facing towards the jig and slightly below the top surface of the Omnijig. Lock it in position. Next, making sure that the bottom edge of your drawer is against your right-hand stop block, bring your material forward and flush with your spacer block.